say it is a crime against humanity. Others call it a draconian stride. And yet others see it as a good and a constitutional way of preserving the African traditional system. I'm talking about the anti-gay law. What exactly is the significance of this law as far as morals and fundamental human rights are concerned? We are about to find out. In Nigeria, major roads and routes are said to be death traps. People rely on generators for power as electricity supply is still epileptic. Sinking of boreholes is a common phenomenon in homes as there are no potable water for the people. Nigeria remains one of the only 3 countries in the world where polio is endemic. Hospitals are poorly equipped with high infant and maternal mortality rates. A country which is one of the highest producers of crude oil in the world still rely on aid from the West to address some of her domestic and health concerns. Now these and many more socio-economic problems are the arguments put forward by some who consider the country's anti-gay law as draconian. On the 13th of January 2014, Nigeria's President Goodluck Jonathan signed a bill into law that criminalizes same-sex relationships. It prescribes prison sentences up to 14 years for same-sex marriage, intimate relationships with a member of the same sex, and gay organizations. A person or group of persons who supports the registration, operation, and sustenance of gay clubs, societies, organizations, processions, or meetings in Nigeria commits an offense and is therefore liable on conviction to 10 years imprisonment. This legislation has been a subject of heated debate amongst Nigerians, especially a section who pitch their tent on moral grounds and those who believe in the sanctity of human rights. But what could this new law mean for Nigerians?
It is a law designed to prohibit any relationship or marital relationship between a man and a man. Usually, a marriage is supposed to be contracted between a man and a woman. But when you find amorous relationships between people of the same gender identity, that's referred to as homosexual marriage or gay marriages. And the present law is designed to prohibit any of such relationship.
Some also argue that the law is so inhuman and a total prejudice against people with different sexual orientation, while shying away from a bigger problem. For example, a rapist in Nigeria gets a 7-year jail term, while a gay man or woman could be jailed for up to 14 years. While most public officials in the country are corrupt, siphoning the nation's wealth with no efficient law to prosecute them, homosexuals, who some believe are innocent, are now target of molestation, brutalization, and arrest in the country. However, over 90% of Nigerians will not have any of these arguments. As far as majority is concerned, homosexuality contradicts every known culture, custom, and moral values of the black man. Of course, it is a very strong argument for a very religious country like Nigeria, where both Christianity and Islam have a very strong footing.
Nigeria is a religious country. We have Christians, Muslims, and we have the traditional ones also. You understand? And it's insane. How do you expect? Okay, imagine a guy and a guy is going to church, or imagine a guy and a guy is going to a mosque, praying to God. It doesn't make any sense.
As a Christian, even the Bible kicks against it. You understand what I'm saying now? So to me, that gay law is a welcome development. We have so many Jews in this country that gay law should not be an issue. It's the thing that is sanctioned by Christianity, and I believe Muslim Quran as well gives vent to it.
International community has frowned at the anti-gay law. Countries like the United Kingdom and Canada have openly condemned the legislation, describing it as a total infringement on the rights of the minority. Though the Nigerian Constitution makes provision for the protection of human rights and freedom of association, it however does not make provision for discrimination against people with diverse sexual orientation. This law has now been interpreted in different ways by legal practitioners and other Nigerians.
This law I'm sure majority of Nigerians would be happy, irrespective. This one is not a law that has to do with any political party. It's a law against humanity and our moral values, because we have a lot of children growing up and seeing a lot of things. I think this is one step in the right direction.
I'm in support of the law. Naturally, men were not created to be married to men. Neither women was created to marry to women. If we go back to our creation background, God created a man and a woman, not a man and a man or a woman and a woman. So I'm in support of the law.
The United Nations did not hide its disapproval of the law. United Nations Human Rights Chief Navi Pillay lamented against the anti-gay law, and in her words she says, "Rarely have I seen a piece of legislation that in so few paragraphs directly violates so many basic universal human rights: the rights to privacy and non-discrimination, the rights to freedom of expression, the rights of association and assembly, and the rights to freedom from arbitrary arrest and detention. This law undermines all of them." On the contrary, the anti-gay law has turned out to be very popular with Nigerians, and the country's parliament has gone a step further to tell the international community to withdraw their aids. Vast majority of Nigerians are in support of the government, while anyone who professes to be homosexual risks being attacked and even killed by the masses.
Well, the right to privacy and the right to freedom of association, I don't believe includes the right to corrupt people's culture or to corrupt the human mind or to corrupt human beings. The government has a fundamental obligation to protect us. That is to provide security, and that protection includes protecting us from ourselves as individuals, from self-destruct, because human beings have the instinct to destroy themselves if they are not guided accordingly. Government has that right to protect us, and some of the protection that can be granted is by severing foreign cultures that can affect us negatively.
What kind of right is that? We are talking of morals. We are talking of morals. What kind of right are you talking about? It does not inhibit anybody's rights. It's not a way of life.
You know, we have not gotten to that level where we throw the law of God or the doctrines of God to the dustbin. No. So you understand me? So those who argue on the premise that it amounts to fundamental infringement on fundamental rights may be relying just on the letters of the Constitution, without also factoring into the equation the spirit of the Constitution, which goes into the consciousness of the people.
In spite of popular acceptance of the anti-gay law, some Nigerians and indeed opinion leaders have stressed that the Nigerian government should tackle more pressing national issues than making a resolution to witch hunt homosexuals. Taking the debate to social media, some social critics have vented that the anti-gay law is a political strategy and a mere distraction from Nigeria's main problems. Undoubtedly, the Nigerian anti-gay law is one piece of legislation that has drawn the attention of the world to the country. But despite every threat and persuasion by the international community, the country is not showing any sign of reconsidering the law. This is a strong message that homosexuals have no place in the most populous black nation. Social critics have constantly argued that it is not the business of any state, Nigeria inclusive, to interpose itself into the private affairs of two or more consenting adults. In fact, they have said that laws are supposed to protect its citizens rather than abuse them. But the majority also fear, on the other hand, that if a liberal hand is given to gay men and women, it could result in the ridicule of the traditional African value system. So, the mega question still stands. Where lies the future of a same-sex orientation in Nigeria? Yes, we're still on the big issue, which is the anti-gay law, its moral and fundamental human rights implications. Now, moving on from the controversial and debating nature of our studios, we're here on a one-on-one with a very special guest, Fumilola Ayotade. She's the founder of the Homosexuality Growth, Prevention and Control, otherwise known as the Hog Pack Initiative. As a matter of fact, Ayotade sees herself as an ex-lesbian turned heterosexual. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us on the big issue.
Thank you.
Could you specifically tell us what exactly inspired you to, found Hawk Pack? Were there any factors specifically while you were still, should I say, in that lifestyle?
Oh, well, I'll say my passion, it grew out of the forming of Hawk Pack initiative was one divinely orchestrated.
Okay.
Then two, coupled with the passion I had for it, and thirdly, because the quest to find an answer to an age-long question of the root cause of this same-sex attraction, SSA. As someone who had gone past through this path for many years, 28 years, coming out of it, coming out of it is not just the only thing. I felt that let me go back to what could have made me to live such a lifestyle for 28 years. And in the course of my research, I discovered so many things which I feel that the best way to better my world or to help others who are still held bound by this and trapped in this disorder, with this disorder, is to come up with a platform, to get a platform ready for them to come and experience a touch, a divine touch that could get them liberated from this.
Okay, could you briefly tell us how was life like being a lesbian, as a lesbian woman living in Nigeria? How was life like for you? Well,
then it was just like living a normal life, because then it wasn't something that was, to me, I was out about it, but still, I would say it's another, living in a world, in another world.
Out to your family or out to the society in general?
Out to everyone that cares to know, because I'm not really shy. Then I wasn't shy about my inordinate attraction, sexuality then. But because then I was putting the blame on the supreme being, that, well, if God had made, if I was like that then, the supreme being caused it, so why should I be ashamed of it? And then there was the people were not that then, they don't have this much enlightenment about who is a lesbian, or they don't really know what the act of homosexuality is all about. Even while I was living those lives, then a lot of people I've come in contact with, a lot of people related, even expressed my erotic feelings to a lot of people, and without their prior knowledge that what I was doing then was inordinate. And a lot of them saw me just like, they never saw anything bad about it. So to me, it was just a normal way of life to me. I never saw anything bad about it until I started growing more mature. Okay,
let me hold you there. Now, for some people who, express and they say that as far as they can remember, in fact, they are of the opinion that, they were born gay or they were born homosexual. What is your reaction to that? Because from what you've said so far, your root causes were basically external. Yeah. Now, some people feel that these things, the attraction is inborn. They were born that way. What is your reaction to that, based on your level of experience?
Well, to a larger extent, I wouldn't agree that nobody is born with same-sex attraction syndrome. Nobody's born with it. It grows from it's a life from developmental process. It's a thing that grows alongside as a child. When you are being given birth to as a child, and you are not faced with a healthy life where a child should be, definitely. This thing comes up.
Social factors.
Interaction of many factors. Okay. That's social, biological, cognitive factors or psychological factors. So somebody is born with, I will use the word clean slate, but at the time of the child's development, something came up, and one or two things came up, which can be either on the age of on marital grounds. Maybe the person grows up in a family where there is no love, and maybe there's parental neglect, or where that the person is
Physical
not finding
abuse
the
and
help.
all that.
God bless
Okay.
you. So those are the
Okay.
things that.
Okay, now let me ask you this, Ms. Fumi. Do you believe that homosexuality, in terms of, gay men and women, do you believe it can be cured or at best managed?
Well, before I will answer that question, let me differentiate something.
Okay.
The issue of same-sex attraction syndrome, which I call SSAD,
Okay.
that is where the problem lies, the challenges lies. But you only choose to act out the feelings or the desires, the erotic attraction in you through the act of homosexuality. So, acting out homosexuality is a choice. So, I would say at this point that you can choose not to be a homosexual, but in the case of the SSA, the unmanaged same-sex attraction syndrome that had developed into a chronic habit or chronic lifestyle of homosexual, that SSA can be cured. And
Okay.
it is not something that can be cured just in a day. It can take,
Okay, in curing that SSAD,
Yeah.
what do you think is the approach? Religious, spiritual, or psychological? What is the approach
It's a
in curing this?
I will use the word holistic approach. It's
Okay.
a holistic
What
because
do you mean by holistic?
holistic is a comprehensive treatment plan which comprises of the spiritual, the psychological, adoption of psychological approach, psychotherapeutic approach, and other forms of approach that that could aid the healing. Is a comprehensive treatment plan, and the spiritual approach, above all, the spiritual approach.
Okay, could you take us through this, this therapeutic process in, I mean, now for instance, I walk up to Hog Park,
Yes.
as a gay man,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to be, to be corrected
Exactly.
or, or cured.
Yeah.
What exactly are the processes I would have to go through to become a normal heterosexual man?
Well, Hog Park, if just like the question you asked, walking up to Hog Park Initiative for a way out of homosexual lifestyle or behavior, coming up even to say that yes, this is who you were, that is the first stage. Admitting that you knowing that admitting who you really are is one. That is the first phase of the deliverance process. Now, coming to then the second thing, accepting that until you come to realize that the lifestyle you've been living before coming up for an assistance now is not normal.
Okay.
The day you accept that lifestyle is not normal, that is until you can accept that's the second phase. Then
So it's really a mind thing.
it's a mind thing
psychological
until
thing.
yes,
Okay.
until you are, it's a progressional thing.
Okay.
It's not just you just wait, maybe because someone said that this thing is not good, or you just have no.
So there's
if you are
nothing,
not convinced,
there's
it
nothing
is-
scientific injections and
it-
all
not,
that.
not at all.
Okay.
It's just that is what I call the insanity of the mind. It's more or less like someone who is mad in the street. I like using that example all the time. When the day a madman knows that he is mad, he has been insane for many years. He has gained his.
first
That is
step
just
of
the
curing.
best. So then another thing is for you to be able to reflect, because the therapeutic, I say, is a progressional thing. Then once you've gone through that first phase of that, now the next thing is for you to try and identify those things that had caused that problem, the same-sex attraction. Because trying to resolve those issues is what will determine whether you will overcome the feelings of or overcome acting it out. Because not until you identify the problems, the root cause of the problem that brought about the SSA in you,
Then there can be no solutions.
it has to be resolved first before you start seeing results.
Okay.
And that is where you have to talk about healing emotional wounds, trying to reconciliation, trying to call back stories, when they call back stories, trying to reflect back to the past experience, grieving.
Okay.
At times, you need to go and confront those that have hurt you many years ago and tell them that, sir, man, these are the things you did to me. Even if it's going to take you, just then let them leave you to exercise that madness for that, just to express yourself, grieve it out. Not until you've gone through those, those healing processes. There can never be change.
Okay, so first step, self-admittance.
Yes.
Then the believing that there are solutions.
Exactly.
And and of course the final is the
that is
reconciliation to your social environment
and those causative factors, trying to resolve those things that has brought about the.
On a daily, monthly, or annual basis,
yes,
how many gay men and women come to your organization? What is like the statistics of those who come for help to Hawk Back?
Well, most on a daily basis we receive nothing less than 7 to 8 calls
every day.
Phone calls, seeking for advice, a way out, and everything. And we will have to tell them the truth that these are the things you need to do. But some people they find it hard because when you tell them, it's not about just saying that like I said, one thing is for you to say I have this problem, another thing for you to admit that you need help, another thing is for you to willing the determination to go through, because there are a lot of challenges that we must let them know they must face in the course of the recovery process.
Okay.
Talk about the reality is that at times when when you're trying to resolve some of these issues, it might even cost you losing your job. Yes, because if one of the things that are really making maybe some of the causative factors has to do with the nature of the job you do. We have to let you know that for a while you have to be isolated, not living, but a lot of people, because we don't have a comprehensive welfare program for people living of such in Nigeria for now. Some people will be scared where we have a problem of unemployment in Nigeria, some who has a job will now say, we have to lose a job because of going through any therapeutic.
So in a way, this sounds like rehab.
We call it is a rehabilitation, rehab or integration.
Okay.
Rehab or integration, because as you are, it's not only rehabilitating them, they need to be reintegrated. Because when you undergo rehabilitation, you need to inject them back into the society
where they're coming from.
After they must have gone through the series of healing processes, then to be sure that yes, they can fit in. That is where they will be able to form the real image which God has designed them to be from deception, and they'll be able to because if they are not reintegrated back, there is no way they could develop this heterosexual.
All right. Give us an idea. The picture of the LGBT. Number in Nigeria. How many do you think there are based on statistics?
From our research, because ideally, for the past 3 years, we've been going around from state to state, cities to cities. I don't want to exaggerate, but I can tell you that Nigerian government, they've undermined the LGBT communities. We have them. If I'm going by what the reliable statistics we have well over 17 million, well over. If not, there will be more than, but just from our own,
gay men and women in Nigeria.
LGBT community.
Wow.
LGBT communities. Because when you look at talking about the North, where we have much of this, predominantly we have the larger numbers in the North. Then talk about Port Harcourt, where we have Port Harcourt, Benue State. Then coming to Edo, Bini, we have where we have the eye-prone. We call them the eye-prone zone. They are they have the. Then talking about Lagos.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think now? Talking socially, from a social point of view.
Yeah.
What do you think should be the attitude towards gay men and women? Should they be seen as criminals or people who essentially need help? What do you think is the best approach? Now, bearing in mind the anti-gay law, which some people think it's draconian, it's crime against humanity. Some people think it's the best approach, you know, it's the best medicine for gay men. What do you think ideally should be the approach towards these people?
Ideally, there are the best approach. We have two approaches to it, because when we're looking at it, we have it's people that are living with SSAD syndrome. That is the same-sex attraction syndrome now. We have a lot of them, they don't act it out. They still live with it, but it's still affecting them in the other areas of life, despite the fact that they are not acting it out. They need to be healed. That's why we should see them as someone living with a disorder. I call it sexuality disorder.
Okay.
It's a disorder, as far as I'm concerned. That is, and for those who are acting it out as well, who are now, I call them the openly gay homosexuals or gay confirmed homosexuals. Those ones too, they need help, they need healing, and at the same time, they need to be cautioned. There should be a legislation, not like the one we are having now. There should be a legislation that we, bring them into checks. And such a legislation should be that we give room for no other part. It's either you accept the that it should be a kind of healing alternative. Failure to conform to go through the healing alternative, then there is a more punitive measures that can be taken that will make them change. It will affect them psychologically, and it will melt down the destructive spirit that pushes them into wanting to remain a homosexual, not putting them in jail, not at all.
Okay. Wow. It's been an experience, Mrs. Fumi, rather. Thank you so much for joining us for the big issue, and more time forward to a more rewarding relationship subsequently with you and the Hawk Pack if possible. Yeah. Okay, so we've come to the end of the one-on-one with Fumi Lola Ayotade, the founder of the Hawk Pack initiative. So I'm sure you heard all what she said. It was quite an exposure for me, and I'm sure you found it that way too. And that takes us on to the end. Don't forget, it's still the big issue, the anti-gay law as far as moral and fundamental human rights are concerned. Thank you.